I got to enter. If you're in Midwest City and you're watching this, we're starting. This is the South Office Focus Group. You might not see me again the rest of the day, but here's what I look like today. Does that scare somebody? All right, I can't stand here anymore. But we're recording it. Joanna, we're recording so Midwest City can listen in and observe what's on the screen as we go on YouTube. I thought I'd print this. Every one of you guys got this week. Did you know that? Corey did read his email. When you get something from Oakmar every now and then, just scroll down. Now, if you're not a member of Oakmar, you are, aren't you, Joanna? I think everybody in this room is, huh? Midwest, Middale. I don't know if Middale sends you. You don't get this. I haven't seen this. Yeah, that's part of the difference. That's why I've got to clarify. But when they got their little, what's it called, thing every Monday. And so there's been some question on what's the 2-day rule on various things. We got rules from all kinds of places. We learned the other day from the Real Estate Commission that they only care about their rules. The code and rules, they call them. The first part of the book is code, and the second and last part of the book is rules on that Real Estate Commission manually they give us. But this is, so we got 48 hours to get a earnest money check deposited once we've received it. That's a 2-day rule. But that's I forget which rule, where it came from. Probably a Real Estate Commission rule. This is and one down. This is the one that's talking about the MLS. And so most required changes to the MLS have been standardized with the exception of that the change made will be communicated to the MLS within 2 business days. So when you've got a change, price change, they'll notice it and do that. But I mean, if you've got any kind of change. So this excludes weekends and holidays. So it's 2 business days. So we got an example on here. The data entered in the MLS is always 0 on the clock starts at midnight the following day. In all cases, you have 2 full business days plus whatever hours you have left in the day on the listing agreement. So if you're extending or if you're putting a listing in, that's what I took this to be. That's the question, I think. When we get a listing, how long before we have to put it in the MLS? We have the question even this the other Tuesday. What about coming soons? And so the Real Estate Commission, Sean and David sat up here and said, we don't care. How long you got to put it in the MLS? No, they don't have a rule on it. The rule is an MLS rule saying and why. So it's saying you got 2 days or 48 hours, and this is kind of the definition of that's why I mentioned it, to get the new listing into the MLS system. So once you've got the thing signed, then there is also a commencement date in the listing form. So you've got a date signed, which is not necessarily the day you put it live. It's just the day you sign the papers. But there's a commence on date. That's the day that triggers a 48 hours or the 2-day rule. Because sometimes they got to finish repairing or fixing or cleaning or whatever they're doing to get it ready for the market. They're not quite ready, but they're ready to list, and we don't want them to change their mind by waiting until the day they're ready to have them sign the forms. And that's, I feel that's what we're doing a little, is being afraid that if we wait to, well, it wouldn't have mattered much until it's starting to matter now, because MLS OK, Matrix listing data checkers launched February 7th. It will start to matter because this says that what's it do? Scans all new and changed listings against the MLS to find rules and public record data, detects infractions, sends notifications based on workflow, sends fine notifications and subsequent escalation notices. Fine notifications. Well, that's not fine. I mean, that's not, that means it implies we can have some money involved if we don't get stuff done in whatever their rules are. So, that's why I bring this up about this today, because it starts to matter. So I know what this is. We had this in our previous MLS before Matrix came along. When Matrix came along, it disconnected and they hadn't hooked it all up. But now I guess they figured out how to hook it up again. But we used to get a little note, just an email, that said you put your listing in 72 hours after the listing date. Now, how do they know what the listing date is? You put it in when you put the MLS in, it says, what's the listing date? You were honest and put the actual date in that you listed it. But then you got busy and it took you 72 hours to get it actually in. And then the machinery has no sense of humor at all.
It took me 3 weeks, but with some lots, because I didn't know how to look them up because they didn't have street addresses yet.
Sometimes it's pure ignorance is the problem.
And I was like,
Yeah.
I asked about 20 people and no one else really knew.
So what will happen in that instance is a little notice comes to you and it's like it's a hateful kind, sort of it's not, pardon us, we noticed that you were a little busy and thought we'd print it out.
It's a scary note.
Yeah, we've all had one before, but really it is that same thing, I think, is what we have coming. And it does, it intimidates you when
Well,
you
I
first
had
see
to run up
one.
here and ask them at the office, and I don't go to jail.
It's the preponderance of evidence on prejudice that we have to deal with there, when it's an over time period, But anyway, I just want to prepare you for maybe those things, so you don't panic when you see them if you do. But here's how you solve it. You just don't, when you put the date, it says what's the commencement date, that ought to be less than 24 hours from the time it was commenced. If it's more than that, you're going to have to use, determine if your character still holds or not, maybe lie about it. I don't know. Or just take the thing. But here it says at some point there could be a fine. So we got a man just walked in that's on the board of directors at Oakmont. And thank you, Dwayne, for coming. Now it's good to drop lunch.
Yeah, I had 2 closings this morning, I had that time.
That's called bragging. You put that in the frame of that sound like a complaint. Oh, God, I'm too busy to even eat. But it's really called bragging when you had 2.
Yeah,
And
but
it's
I-
not even 2 o'clock.
That is a little, that is.
Yeah. That's all.
It's
That's all.
just a reason.
One, you guys feel free to brag when you get a chance, because it's an encouragement to somebody else. So anyway, well, let me take a look. Let's see. If you happen to take that listing on the 4th at 9 a.m., then you technically actually have 63 hours to enter that listing in the MLS. The 15 remaining hours of that day plus 2 full business days after that. So you can read this as well as I can. I just want you to understand 2 things. That what's the definition of the 48 hours? And Kim and others that are members of Mid-Bill more do not get this. Or it's highly unlikely they'll get something like this. But Oakmont sends it out because those people are all in the same building. The MLS OK people are in a space upstairs on the 3rd floor, and the rest of the board is down below on the other 2 floors. And they're talking to each other and communicating with each other about what should we put in the newsletter this week. And it's usually things like this that are misunderstood. So anyway, that's that.
But shouldn't we, if we are past the 48 hours, shouldn't we change the listing date, the commencement date, and have people on the
Well, I think I would have the commencement date changed. I don't know yet, change the listing date. It's the commencement date.
Commencement date is what it is.
That's the one, because they can take a month after you listed it to put it on the market. It's the commencement date that is the trigger, I think. And that's the date I would put in the MLS when it says, what's the listing date or what? When's it expired and when you put it in, whoever commences on that day.
That would be the listing date, commencement date. But if we had to change that.
Yeah.
And not get a scary notice.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we just change that on the thing and have everybody sign?
Yeah, it'd be a good idea. Change the commencement date and send it back out and have them reinitial it. So just initial that change. they need to practice anyway, because when you get purchase contracts coming, they need to be able to run the digital signatures comfortably and not have to be fretting and worried about how to do that. So behind that, I printed something off that actually Mark Douglas from the Midwest City office is from Minnesota, I believe. And so he has access to, what's this coming from? This doesn't have the darn thing, but Riz Media, I think, or whatever. He has 30 pages of a thing that they published recently. This was in it. And I just wanted to throw it out before we have our discussion about matters of the great reports. But realtor industry strategy, the typical American household buys and sells a home every 7 to 9 years. I highlight that. The Gary Keller's vision speech number is 10 years. So we're talking about how long do people stay put before they move. His number is an NAR number, and their research is 10 years. Not everybody in 10, but an average of 10. This says 7 to 9. So let's use whatever. Somewhere between 7 and 10 years, people move. I prefer it be 7.
Yeah.
And then when I started, in fact, for most of my career, probably 30 years of it, it was around 5. But baby boomers were 78 million of the people that were going through that cycle of life where they're getting jobs and getting married and going through those phases, getting raises and selling this little house, having kids, then moving into a bigger one. All that's happening, but you got 78 million out of 300 million that's affecting. And therefore, we were moving every 5 years average because those people were moving every 5 years or more often than that, you know, upward mobility and so on. The wheel above represents the 8-year cycle. Nearly all our entire industry, 94% as well as disruptors, are focused on the last 12 months of the cycle. In other words, when we, Corey's, get set down at 9 in the morning and start calling, we are not calling for the people on year 1. We're looking for the people that are in the 8-year moment where they're about to move. So if we had files, we could go back to the 8 years ago file and see who the orphaned customers were. The odds are pretty good that those calls, you wouldn't make as many to find somebody thinking about moving as you would the guys that closed last year. Does that make sense? But that's why the question, how long have you lived there? How's real estate? Oh, you know, answer it when you know the answer. And then basically, why do you ask? You know, Joanna knows this. Why do you ask? And this, well, you know, I know this or that person or that person, or I'm just curious. I don't care what the answer is. I'd love for you to say, by the way, it makes me wonder how long have you lived in your life? And if they say 7 or 8 years, I say, God, thank God I got here already. You know, because you're just about to screw up the national average. You know, and so, and they will respond. They would respond kind of like that, laugh a little bit, but they would say, normally, I mean, often they'll say, gosh, you know, we have thought about moving here and there, you know, from time to time, we just kind of would like to have the newer models, maybe a little more efficient construction and stuff like that. So it's just an icebreaker conversation, but it's about real estate, and it's makes them think, say, gosh, I've been here, how long have I been in this house? And then it's interesting for them to know, if you're normal, some would be 7 and 10, if you get past that, you can almost.
Don, how long have you been in here?
More than 8 years.
He likes it.
So you're messing with
I am true as a national average. I am a baby boomer, I have no life. Baby boomers set standards and screw things up. All right, now, last 12 months. So everybody that's out there, Zillow, everybody else targeting their marketing is targeting toward the guy that's in year 8, that phase, that cycle right there. And so, who's moving? How do we capture them? How do we sell or buy the leads? Lead generation, capture, and conversion is the name of the game there. Now, here's the thing. At the closing, the pattern starts over, and the real estate professional runs back to the green section looking for leads and the next deal. That's the green section up here. So what we just closed, And now we think we're done, and we go hunting again tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for the 8-year cycle die. When in fact this is why I brought this. According to Zillow Consumer Housing Trends Report, only 6% of the real estate professionals have a consistent monthly follow-up program with their customers after closing. Why do we tell you to do it? Because nobody else is doing it. And I got the number now. 6% are Carol Williams agents, apparently. Here's the other thing. An amazing 74% of buyers surveyed said they never heard from their real estate professional again after closing. There's my point. Never. I'm very careful when I use never and always. It's a universal quantifier. It's very long.
But you know, most sellers that I go on listing appointments with, they couldn't even tell you what the realtor's name was that they bought the house.
Absolutely.
Now that's sad.
It is. But if they've been there 9 years, 8 or 9 years, no wonder you can't remember if they never heard from you. That's the thing. The point I'm saying, our company's screaming day after day after day, stay in touch, 33 touch, well, direct, do something, for God's sake, don't let that happen. So we have to not do that. Give your thoughts.
Well, I was just gonna say, I'm seeing it more and more this month from clients from when I started 6 years ago are now starting to.
That's what's gonna happen if you just stayed in touch, because they can remember Kim. They even have your number. And so, I mean, I remember, I tell the guy out here, I can tell this story several times, but I mean, he never opened an email. I sent him one once every 12 months, every month for 6 years until his wife got a transfer. He was a retransfer in here, he came with her. Tab was his name, Tab. And Tab said, Don, I gotta tell you something. I never opened one of those emails the whole 6 years that you sent me every month. I feel terrible about it, so what am I? I'm sitting here on it. And Brenda, you had been out there, you met Tab, your listening presentation was right there on the table. You attended every 4 meeting. Tab Lindemann out in Choctaw area. Now, we sold the house, but it's a relocation transaction, and you were there to do a presentation. But anyway, I would not have been there, and Brenda would have got that business on the rebound. Had I just not said that, he never opened it, apologized, felt bad for it. He said, oh my God, when she got that transfer notice again, I thought, oh, I hope God sent me that email. I get this phone number.
And I print sometimes.
And
I
my
do
clothes
those
weren't there,
mail
though.
outs.
There it was.
Yeah, I print sometimes, I do mail outs of some sort.
And I think
And I
you
print
should do a
sometimes.
mail out to stay on the free.
But then it's these little things like this that happen that remind me, yep, that's why you gotta keep doing it.
Yeah, now let's talk about, because Kim's alluding to something, which is the junk mail syndrome. Oh my God, I'm afraid I'm going to be, what's the word? Yeah, in other words, what do we do when we call them? I can think of the word I'm going to use instead of that, but I can't think of the word. No, yeah, it's just, I don't want to bother them. Well, that's the word. I don't want to bother them. Gosh, I just won't talk. I just sent something last month. But we do need to interrupt them for a moment. We do not need to bother them. Don't bother them. Just interrupt them for a moment once in a while. But that's what I was doing with him. I got the fraction of a second, the reminder for Tab that I'm still in real estate, still interested in whatever's going on in your life. You can open it or not. And he felt bad enough not opening it to apologize when he showed up there and got the listing. But here's the deal, the junk mail thought, if we can get it in our mind, how is it? The junk mail is something from somebody that you don't know about something you don't care about. That's the definition of junk mail. I don't need this, and furthermore, I don't even know you. But when you shift it from, I don't need it, but I know you, like you, and trust you, that's not junk mail anymore. That's just a notice from a friend. It's a reminder, well, okay, it's no real estate. Trash. But you only need the consumer impression for a fraction of a second. Because when they do need you, now you're relevant. and Facebook and all these other ways that we have to stay relevant in our lives without being a real estate person all the time. It's a great gift from Al Gore. I mean, in terms of, what we have, we wouldn't have without it. Thank
So
God.
what do you guys do for your houses that you sell, just like a house anniversary once a year?
Like, cause if they would have sent them just once a year a postcard that said, to celebrate the
But
anniversary.
see, I didn't know.
Yeah.
No, not you, but your clients, they said that you said the seller didn't know who
He
sold
probably
it.
told them they could get more money.
Yeah, that's what I
He
was.
took a cut, so
I
just,
said, oh, I should show you David Knox's video.
Raise the price.
Yeah, that's right. That's the way it comes.
Best balance.
I do always ladder about 5 times a year, but I can post it, it's not a
It's not
newsletter
stock.
that somebody makes, and I've got stuff in there, like, I'll have a recipe that I'll find somewhere, and I've got a little column in there called All About the Buzz, which is just talking about new restaurants and new places in Oklahoma City, and then I kind of write a little, I don't know what you call it, motivational, swing thing on the front, little deal, and then sometimes I'll be putting an old blog post that I used to do a blog a lot. I don't do it much anymore, but from 5 years ago or whatever, a blog posted there, and then some kind of local ads on the back.
So you've got a bit of a
So I got a little bit of everything.
format that you follow, that you update
Well,
5 times or 6
Yeah,
times.
but it's all, it comes out as original material, and the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I had somebody call me from an office or something, that worked for a company, and he said, my aunt needs to sell her house because she's elderly and we're gonna move her up to Missouri. And somebody there at our office in Oklahoma City, he was calling me from out of state, said that your newsletter gets passed around their office every time you send it out, and that I should call you.
Boy,
Ding, ding, ding.
yeah, that's right. That's agents helping agents, what that stands for.
And even
But
though,
we need to train our people to share it.
even though the 22 touch and all that, that's great, and I'm trying to get on track with all that, guys. I don't like people to do that. But mailing out the calendar, and the football and the Thunder Sticks. And just with that, what I pay for that a year, oh my gosh, that's nothing compared to what I get off that. Because the only thing I tell them when I go in their house to list it, and I see I've seen this in a few, 2 or 3 up there, and I says, now I'm a professional staker, and, and when I walk through, I said, the only thing you really need to remove from this refrigerator is everybody's salon. And then put it around to the side. If I know the way, I will tell them.
That's just being honest with them, isn't it? I
It's
don't want you to
funny,
take
though,
it
when you
down.
go in these houses and they're like collectors.
Full of
They got like 4 different realtors up there,
Yeah.
and they're all like, oh, you know.
It's my thunder, OSU, OU, So it comes back down to that relationship thing. Are you junk mail or not? Get your thought, which one it was. The junk mail thought. Dick Dillingham shared this in one of his business planning sessions, and it just stuck with me. Where if I get something from Kim, and I don't need whatever it is, but I like Kim, I don't consider that junk mail. Whatever you're sending, the newsletter, that's not junk.
If
And
it
I,
has any value.
any value, and that's what I've said a lot, that's what my point has been in the past, is if I put a $5 bill into that thing, and it was about something they didn't know, that they didn't know me or even like me, and I just mailed it every month, maybe 33 times a year. I just sent them something, and every time it had $1 or $2 or $3 or $4 or $5 in it, I mix it up. How soon before you unsubscribe, call me and say, Don, could you please stop sending that? Even if it's $1. Just keep sending it, stupid. You know, but that's the point. If there's any value in it, and that, why does that get passed around the office? Because one person determined this has value, I'm gonna be a hero and share it. But we're not asking anybody to share it, we're just, thank God you got it. When we haven't trained our folks, so by the way, feel free to share this. If you
I
want.
share mine at a doctor's office. I mean, I know places where they share it. I mean,
Well, it's customized, it's got value, even the recipe alone might be enough for some of the population that's looking at it, and then other. I point up here to this page right here and say, you could make 6 communications on Facebook out of this. To just say, Marilyn, once you find it, once you can find it. Before you guys got here, we had a review. That's why it's up here. But basically just simply saying, new listings in December compared to a year ago, we're up 6.5%, 77 versus 82, but not up enough. We're still a little bit short on inventory. Now, the national media will come along, and Lawrence Young at the NAR keeps complaining we don't have enough inventory. And he is right, especially when he's talking about starter home price properties. We have the problem here. There's not a new house that you could go buy for $100,000 for a family that just got married, that's 20 years old and has got just started a job somewhere and making $15 or $12 an hour. There's nothing, not one piece of property you can show them. So, but there's demand. We got 82 million from 16 to 35 year age people. 82 million, not 78 like the baby boomers that ran everything, 82 million of them, and 92 if you want to go 16 to 35, that are needing it. They love to move into some quaint, cute, clean, smell good piece of property they could afford, and there's not anything, you guys can show them. Buyer specialists hunting for them, can't find them. So they got to find something used that somebody's taking decent care of. That's the best hope you've got. So, but that's what Lawrence is saying. For years now, he's saying all inventory is short, but especially 200,000 and under inventory. If you guys are showing houses, you know there's not a lot to look at.
You think that's why the apartments, maybe more younger people are living in
Yeah,
apartments?
exactly, because they're clean, they smell good, they're modern, and they can afford it. It's 400 square feet, but they can afford it. And but the thing is, it's delaying them buying because it is not cheap. They can just afford it, and as a result, they're not saving money and so on. Now, we got to remember to get sharpen our saw on the down payment assistance programs and other things, so we can help somebody that has no money but wants to own a house. They all say they want to own a house. I have it upstairs on my desk. Some of the survey of recent home buyers, and there's the grand majority of them do want to buy something. They just don't feel like they can. Yeah.
Can I say something like,
Hang on a second.
Go ahead.
Because this one's been waiting a little bit
Go
over here.
ahead. No, go back ahead.
Beauty
No, go.
before?
Go.
You go.
You
Go.
I have
here, I'm closer, I'll turn the mic.
I have my daughter create she'll put a recipe, local activities, things like that on the newsletter that we send out on my email. So she'll go to Oklahoma City and things to do in the area and whatever, and upcoming events, free events, whether it's something free at the Myriad Gardens, whether it's, do this or that with your kids, and she'll do that and a recipe of the month, and she'll do 2 or 3 things or whatever and upload it.
Send it out. Where's she send it? I mean, where does it go on?
Not that she
online?
sends it out, I send it out on my email.
She will, but I mean, do you send it out online or by
Yeah.
mail? Online.
Email.
Okay. It reminds me of Casey Kenny up at Elite. We know Casey, some of
Casey
us.
Sheets.
Casey eats. I mean, I get her email, I won't delete it. Because it's so valuable to me. And she started here, brand new agent, I can remember the first few days and, you know, it was a struggle. She now is making $500,000 a year. She's in year 5. And that's the track people could come on, but I mean, in year 5, and she was broke, dead broke. Had to sell her house and rent a place in year 1 because of dynamics that had to do with her employment. But that probably compelled her. I'll never forget that conversation. We're sitting in the room where, over in that corner over there, she comes in, tells me the story. And I looked at Casey and I said, I know this seems like a sad day. It seems like a disappointing moment, but I have a feeling this is momentous moment. Because you don't have a choice now but to sell some real estate. Husband's unemployed, just like that, unfairly. She's been treated poorly by a broker that she came from, but she was there for a month or 2 and they didn't teach her anything. She came here so someone would teach her, and then they tried to accuse her of stealing trade secrets and all kinds of stuff. But that day, so the greatest day some of us have is the day where we decided, I am not putting up with this anymore. If the dadgum Girl Scouts come to my door and want to sell me cookies, I'm not going to have to lie to them why I'm not buying them. I'm by God going to buy them. I'm not going to be in a position not to. I mean, those kind of moments where it's that turning point where the frustration of this is not acceptable finally hits you. You say, you know what? I am going to do whatever it takes, including some stuff I don't feel like doing, but I'm not going to have this. And so those are moments like that. But Casey, that was that moment. I looked her in the eye and she's tears. You don't have a choice. This is a great day, Casey. It's a great day because now you don't have a choice. And then I'll never forget that little yellow sticky note on her computer screen, stuck right about here. Cap by August. That's what she needed to be able to fund things. Her husband got a job right away again, and it turned out. But I mean, that's all it was. The goal was capped by August. That's all. And I'm driving on the way to northwest side of town. I'm on I-44 at about 63rd Northwest. And that's when the call comes in. She's still here. Don, I capped yesterday. And said, hang on just a second, Casey. I have to see what it is. This is July, whatever it was. It was not August yet. It was still July. But that was but then by then she had momentum. And she took that momentum. I never know where someone's going to take that momentum. But not everybody takes it to $500,000. Not everybody needs it. But what she is doing is the Casey Eats thing is every month I get that. And she's taking time to go find a place that's good to eat and write about her experience on it. So it's the blog thing. It's a combination of all that stuff. But there's value in that. I get the darn thing and I say, you know what? I'd like to take Susanna there. I wouldn't know about it if that wasn't for Casey's newsletter. I wouldn't have any idea what to expect or why if I would want to go. So it's nothing about real estate, but it is valuable.
Is there a trick to getting your email not to be spam? No.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it would be.
If they mark it, they just mark it.
When I send it out, I just feel like it's going to spam.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Here's what you do. You send it out and then you call your friends and say, I sent you something and I just checked and see if you got it. It's courteous, just a common courtesy, not common anymore. But anything you send out would be worthy of a call to see if they got it, which is if you need an excuse. So.
And always send it to yourself.
Doesn't say or add yourself.
Always send it to yourself or your personal email and stuff and make sure it came through right and everything.
And then you might
And do that first.
post and say, hey, did you guys get my
Yeah, send it to yourself first so you can see how it
decluttering
comes
the
up on the screen.
wall, or if you didn't, I can add you to my email list.
Well, anyway, I just appreciate the value of the collective thinking here. But the bottom line is if 6% that's all it is. 6% of real estate professionals have a consistent monthly follow-up program. Well, be one of them. Be one of them. Because, Kim, what's happening right now, and the reason you are getting harvest is because you planted seeds 6 years ago and you stayed in touch with it, kept cultivating it. And when you closed, that was day one, not the end. That's what that article says. So you can hardly read. I'm not going to spend any time. But get your magnifying glass, whatever you got to do to read this part right here. I want you to pay a little bit of a price. Hard to read, but do whatever you got to do to read that, because that basically is the new business strategy they're talking about down below, which is basically stay in touch on a regular basis and how often they're actually saying. This was not written by Kelly, but I think it actually says, start the relationship at the closing, let's see, 32 transactions, how do I discover her? Anyway, they're saying basically how often to stay in touch and the cycles and so on. So, all right, the value of this meeting. Oh, Brenda.
Oh, this was just after, because I didn't know it, but I'm working with, like Don was saying, well, it triggered my mind when you said younger people moving to an apartment, and the synopsis of what you said. But I didn't realize that a couple that made too much income and had higher credit scores, they can go conventional with down payment assistance. Did any of you know that?
Sure.
Yeah, well, you probably do.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, did any of you know, 'cause I'm working with a couple right now, and it's called the Dream Program. And it's only 3% down, but you get 3.5%, but the down payment is only 3%, and the other 0.5% can be used towards closing costs. So talk to Kyle about it.
There is an income limit.
Pardon me?
There is an income limit.
Yes.
You know what it is?
I think it's 64,300 or 63,200, somewhere in that range for two people.
There are
It's what,
programs.
they couldn't go FHA because their income was too much.
Right.
So he took a
There is still
conventional.
an income limit.
Yeah, I'm
It's
sure.
higher.
Well, that's another part of this is to be, just talking to folks yesterday, or the day before, about no doc loans. We had them years ago, they went away in 2008 or so and hadn't heard of them coming back. I think I've read here and there, but there are people that have, they're individual investors that are basically saying, we'll do a no doc loan. We don't care if you verify you have an income or job or not.
There's another company on Wall Street doing it too.
So there's a little bit of that going on. So it kind of is worth listening every once in a while when you hear about a program that's a little unusual and said, okay, let's verify if that's legitimate or not, if it actually exists. And who is it? What's the name? What's the number? Because ultimately, not everybody everything fits in the nice little certainty box that of products they have. They got a pretty wide variety of options, but they don't have a 100% conventional. They don't have a 3% conventional, and yet they do exist. So you probably have, I asked yesterday, the guy said 100% conventional. What's the score got to be, 830? No, it's at 740. 740. Well, 740 is not that uncommon. It's a pretty, it's a guy who just pays his bills regular, but ultimately it's not perfect. It's not absolutely perfect either. All right. This is that time where I say, okay, what's happened out there that we all could collectively learn something from that is a transaction experience or approximately some kind of experience. I know you guys know it. Glenn's always got
Glenn's always got some.
I got one from today, so it's not with any pleasures, but in 1999, I helped a lady, she had a cat in an old car, and she was living on Shields in an apartment kind of motel deal. Okay. Had a program, there was a program, Grant can remember this, probably Grant can too, that you got your down payment and they paid almost all your closing costs. And so I got her approved for that program. She had a job. I mean, she had a pretty good job. She was divorced. She was a real bitter person. And So we were buying a house that was in the state. I didn't have the selling side. And there was, in the two heirs lived out of state. And then they had a probate attorney. And so it had a washer, a dryer, and a refrigerator. And so I negotiated for those to stay for her, which she didn't have, okay? And a new roof, got a new roof. And so about a week before closing, she had got her, no, 2 weeks before closing, she had talked to some of her friends, and she called the other realtor, okay, not me, the one that's representing her, and said, I've got some friends that I can have come into town, and we'd like to go in there and paint the house. Because they can't come after I close on the house, will that be all right? And he goes, I don't see a problem with that, okay? This is lesson number one. If somebody else's client calls you, tell them to call their realtor and don't talk to them, okay? But he said, I don't see a problem with that, okay? So he calls the two heirs who say, well, one of them said, I don't know, how does that usually work? And the other one says, no. You talk to our attorney. Now, if our attorney says to go ahead and do that, then I guess I can live with it. But it doesn't sound right to me. So he calls the attorney, and the attorney tells him, HE, hockey sticks, no. And nobody going in that property to do anything. So does he call my client back? No, he calls me and goes through this whole scenario and says, you need to call your lady. Well, but he drags it out because he's talked to all those people. So now her friends have bought non-refundable airline tickets to come in and paint. And so I call her, and I said, Susan, I wish you had called me, but the other realtor called me and told me about all this and everything. And they're not going to let you have access to the property to paint. Whoa, I didn't even know there was that many words like that. And
Did you take notes?
yeah, put it in the bank. And so she goes on and on, and she said, well, there wasn't a problem when I talked to him. The problem's probably you.
Oh, yeah.
It's you. You made it where I can't get in there to do that. So I'm going to fire you. And I said, well, why don't you call my broker? So I had her, she called Linda McElroy, talked to her, blasted her for a long time. And we were around the corner, and I was in Linda's office, and she was going, well, it's kind of late, to get rid of your realtor, blah, blah, blah. This was like on about a Wednesday, and we're supposed to close on Friday. And
It's kind of late.
and so I'm sitting across from Linda, and I go, send Betty. So Linda says, well, can I send somebody else from my office, because he just works for me? She said, that'll be fine. I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to see him ever again. Ever. Okay. I could hear her on the phone. So we send Betty. Betty does the closing. Betty has to listen to how I'm the worst realtor in the Western Hemisphere. I lied and cheated and stole and everything. She got a check at closing for $357. She got a house with a new roof, one with a washer, a dryer, and a refrigerator. Okay. She didn't bring a dime to close it.
They didn't have any.
And then she calls me back and said, I'm going to report him to the real estate commission. Okay, for all this. So fast forward to 20 years from now, today, there's a call that came in on our voicemail system. And you new people don't even know we have one because we haven't used it in 2 years. And my phone comes up and I can't retrieve it because I've got it on my code. And it's been 2 or 3 years since we've even used it. I don't know my own code. So I have to call Cheryl and I said, Cheryl, what's the deal with the voicemail? I go, is that just some quirky, are they working on the phone system? She goes, no, somebody else got one of those a couple months ago. She goes, I can go in and get it. So she gets in and get it. So she calls me back, and she said, oh, it's a lady that she closed on her house in 1999, and she's got her house sold to somebody, and she needs to know from you what title company that she used. And I said, okay, and so she says, this lady's name is Susan, and tells me the address, and I go, I can't believe this. So I call her back. And I said, hi, this is Lynn Cosper, I was returning your call. She said, well, I don't know if you remember me or not.
How could I forget you?
So she says, I've got my house sold to somebody, and I don't think that you gave me my closing documents, because I can't find them.
Oh.
And I don't know what title company that my abstract is at. And I've got to find that out, or I can't sell this to this lady. She said, so, do you know? And I said, I don't, but why don't you call the other realtor?
That's exactly right. She hired me, remember?
And she didn't like that.
Well, that's a long way around, and she didn't like that, but things come back around once in a while. And the most ungrateful sometimes are the ones you did the most for.
Yeah.
That's usually the way it is.
And they don't know.
I guess the main thing is don't talk to other people's clients.
I guess there's the point, basically. Just refer back to whoever their realtor is, and just say you need to get that, channel it through them. Yeah,
I got
great.
a shorter story.
Yeah. I'm pretty old.
You know I'm not doing it.
I was trying to build it out.
I was waiting on that. She came in with a gun. So I have an aha. How many of you actually are starting to truly build your database and work the 33 touch stuff?
I've had mine, but I haven't added anything to it in several months, and I thought, well, I've got an email.
I want to tell you that I'm the worst guilty of this. Christy and I, we finally got ours together, and I think there's 6,050 on there. I don't know how many of them are useful. But we have set up 33 touches and then they expire. We've done this. We haven't really cultivated this the way that you're supposed to. And you read the MREA and it says, and I had an aha, because it says if you have 1,920 mets, that means they say Glenn Cosper, they go, yeah, the real estate guy, I know Glenn. That's all they have to be. They don't have to be friends, they just know that's who you are, your real estate guy. If you have 1,920 of those and you run a 33 touch campaign and do just like the book says, you'll have 320 sales. I don't know that I always believed that. I don't know that I had bought into it. I don't know. So I called around the country and asked about 7 television stations in different parts of the country. And I got their names and their permission from International to do it. And all 7 of them told me the same story. Yes, absolutely. We did what you're doing to build up to that number. That's how we got those in that mess. But once we did that, one guy had 2,100 in his, and he said he still does the marketing, still does some of the stuff we do. And I said, well, how many did you sell last year? And he said 373 units. And I said, how many of those were off of your database? And he has 2,100 in his. He said 300. He sold 43 outside out of 370 something. All the rest came off the database. So for me, it was the aha. Wow, we have this resource. We've never done anything with it.
That's
It
right.
seems dumb to me.
And even,
that we haven't done it.
Glenn's building one, it's customized and all that, but even the one that's like everybody else's is only going to your people, not anybody else's. And so it's built, it's done, it's already finished, but like you said, that thing expires at 12 months. You gotta renew that group of people for the next 12 months so that it doesn't stop going out.
And you have to clean
Or there's a
it.
way to set it where it will automatically go. Hang on just a second.
So you can download the emails of all your Facebook contacts as well, because they have email.
Yeah.
Same with your LinkedIn, and you can import them into your
Now, it sounds like the voice of experience here, because the import into part is where my mental, I can't picture the step. I can picture but that's powerful to be able to get all of it in one time. Janae is as good as anybody.
You got like 2,400.
2,400 is that point. It's 300 some transactions if you harvest what you get. If you don't have time to harvest 200 of it and hand off the rest to somebody else, there's other people that could use some help. So I mean, it's, you know, we're gonna get you buyer special, so you're not wasting, losing.
It shocked me, it really
Well,
did, and so that's our goal for this year, we are gonna do that. and make
But
sure
that is,
we're-
19, 20, and 16,000, you know, if you're marketing to 16,000 people that don't know you from Adam, it's just a blast, it's shotgun. But 16,000, that's the same thing. And then in the MREA book, Gary's a little conservative, he says, well, why should we take the risk if it's gonna work, just do both? And then you know you're gonna hit 320.
Because the 16,000 costs 8,000 a month.
That's, yeah, that's the Levinson program, which is 5,000 a month. Yeah, Karen.
Okay, I have the buyer.
Okay.
And we did not make appraisal.
We, you have the buyer,
$6,000.
so your seller didn't make a
short.
appraisal.
Seller didn't make appraisal.
Okay.
And so my question is, how do we bust the contract so we can look at other houses without waiting for the seller to go through all this stuff that he's talking about, trying to get the appraisal up and, you know, having the lot reevaluated by the assessor and all that stuff?
Yep, read the contract and he can get, you know, it's subject, if there's, what kind of financing?
It's USDA.
So FHA, but anyway, there's a blank that says that it has this contract subject to the property appraising for the sales price. And if it doesn't, the buyer's no longer obligated to buy it,
So we're
even if the seller solves it. Now, I mean, you know, the sellers might, but the buyer
And
can,
the buyer will take the appraised value if the buyer's willing to do it.
Right.
A lot of times they do.
yeah, I mean, it's a,
He's not willing to deal, he doesn't want to go down.
The seller does.
well, then he can keep it, he's the buyer. The seller's now the buyer. Run a copy of the deed,
Who's
hand it
the-
back to him.
Who's the other realtor?
It's a for sale by owner.
Okay, well, there's-
Hold on, it's your job to educate, okay? He needs to understand that he can't sell that house USDA for 6 months with any other price. It's gotta be that price if they're gonna finance. What most people don't know is all FHA and VA have separate deals. They're all in a government bond, clock through Ginnie Mae, and they all check that appraisal before they do theirs. So it's gonna be Dane that he can sell at FHA or VA. He's down to conventional cash.
He
Yeah.
knows that, he's a
He
builder,
does.
he knows all this stuff.
So they
Just-
care.
So you're not.
You educated them.
But I can take my daughter out and look for houses this weekend?
Well, yeah, if you read this is the clause.
Because the
Buyer-
letter's saying that if I go out, I could get dinged because of, I don't know, something.
You release the contract.
Yeah, I mean, you can
I mean,
send the
have
release
no
over.
time
But I
that
mean,
you-
this is the FHA one. I assume that when you went to USDA, you use the basic, there's a USDA form. I guess I don't have it. But it's got the same language in it. Basically saying a buyer written statement issued by the Federal Housing Commission, setting forth the appraised value of the property. You know, it's basically, buyer's property after the appraisal value statement is made available to the lender. The buyer shall, however, have the privilege and option of proceeding with the consummation of the contract without regard to the amount of the appraised value. So if it doesn't appraise, he can pay the extra. The appraised value is arrived at, I'm trying to look at, buyers shall not be obligated to complete the purchase of the property described herein or to incur any penalty by forfeiture, earnest money deposit, or otherwise unless the lender has delivered to the buyer a written statement issued by of sales price of this. There's your words. If anybody has any, you know, wants to intimidate you at all and say you're obligated. Now, he can come down to installment, whatever he wants to, but your buyer has no obligation to buy it if that number doesn't match that blank.
Now, is the
Which is
lender
just-
telling the buyer that they can't do that? or telling you?
No, the lender's telling me that I can't take my buyer out because my buyer's ready to go look for
Tell the lender to read that clause.
Yeah, see,
The lender's going, no, you would be in breach of the contract if you did that, and if they found out, they would pin it on you, and we wouldn't get our earnest money back.
So is this a lender possibly that was assigned by a builder who said, if you use this lender, I'll pay your closing costs?
No, it's the lender of our choice.
Really?
Then you
Have
read
him
the
call me.
contract.
Adam called me.
I mean, that's why we need to be able to, I would go to the USDA form and just make sure it says the same thing. I'm sure it does. But ultimately, that's the thing. What does it say? why do we bother getting initials and signatures on this stuff? Because it says this, and when that happens, there are choices. Now, he cannot release the contract. He can be stubborn about it or whatever, but at the end of the day, that still says that. I believe, I'll go look for the USDA form up here a little bit, just make sure it does. But I'd like to read it. In fact, you know, your contract itself, that one, and that, it's on the finance supplement. But that's why it's there. In case the buyer just basically, you know, and most of the time, in this case, he solved, the builder solved the problem. He will not concede that, you know, to the value that it appraised for. So he bought it back and he gets to keep it. Unless your buyer wants to fight him over it and give him extra. So, I mean, it's one thing for the builder to say, you know what, I guess I overvalued it some, I'll sell up for that, I'm sorry, but that's all I can do. That's what normal sane people would do, that have 6 months to wait before they can sell it to somebody else then.
I'm shocked that your lender didn't just issue a declination letter, because once he's done that, the deal's over.
Yeah, he can't make the loan.
He can't make a loan based on that sales price.
What do you call it, a detonation?
Declination.
Decline.
Declination letter is what it's called.
Yeah, instead of a pre-approval letter, it's now a decline letter. That they can't, they're not.
He can
gonna
issue
do it.
that because the property didn't meet value, and then it's over. Why he would say that, why he would say that, to you kind of freaks me out. I said, have you called me? I should have talked to whoever did this.
I think he wants to be able to stay together, because he's not gonna get his, but if it doesn't.
Well, he'll get the next one if he acts right.
Let's make sure.
Well, if he's not smarter than
Did you
that.
pull up the USDA?
Yeah, this is the USDA rural housing
It
loan.
says appraised value right there.
Let's see. Contract is buyer.
It has 5 days
Buyer shall have the right to cancel this contract within 3 days after the buyer received the notice of appraisal. So they, you know, it's a little different set of words, but paragraph 2 there essentially says the same thing. Doesn't have the dollar amount in it, but,
It just says it meets value.
but it says it. So there, I mean, that's where it's wise for us, or valuable for us to know what these things say. And the reason that I love teaching on this subject is it sharpens me up to know this stuff says this. I say it every time I teach that contract and forms class. We're not going to talk about the blanks. You guys are the experts on the blanks. I'm going to talk about what's between the blanks, which is what we never read until this stuff comes up, and then we're reviewing it. But then when I'm teaching it, I get to, you know, going over it with people who have never seen a form in their life. So I read every line of it once in their career and basically say, this is what this means, but this is why it says it. So then I'll use your experience at the end of this month on my post class on that form to say, if it does not appraise, and anybody tells you that you're in jeopardy if you cancel out and move on.
I think with the lender, it's just ignorance, because he asked me to ask my broker and make sure, so I don't think he's trying to pull anything over.
It is first day.
Well, I mean,
First day.
to Grant's point back here, it is in your cancellation agreement, so that's why we go do the form. It's called cancellation agreement or form. I think I can get to it pretty quick and just recognize that a couple of those deal with the financing's unavailable. So for them to pay that price and get the loan amount they need to do it, they can't do it because of the appraisal coming in low. All right.
When Oric came the other day, did Oric mention anything about the partnership that they have with Liberty Mutual and the incentive program that they have?
No.
Oric?
Because I mentioned something to Vicky about it yesterday.
Try, release.
Jacob, someone from Liberty Mutual had told me that, NAR has a partnership with Liberty Mutual. And it's like, it's basically like a, it's basically like an incentive. And so I said, I know that would have to go through our broker.
Works the real estate commission, they wouldn't have a.
Yeah, I don't think they would have anything to do with that. Let's
So you said Liberty Mutual has. an
Yeah,
agreement?
Liberty Mutual has like this.
They have one with Keller Williams.
They have one with that.
Right, and so it's like it's like a referral program, I think is what it's called.
You can be paid referral.
You can do referrals.
Look at,
But
they
it
went
needs
over
to go
that.
through our broker.
We're looking over that over here. They didn't go that far. That you can be paid referral from an insurance agent.
But it
We just
needs
get
to-
paid with it.
We just need to go through the office. I got a card from Jacob, and I would text you because I was like, I don't think this is how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, or it was.
It's not a waste of contract.
There, I don't know why it's not in ours. I had to go to real estate commission.
Oh, it's cancellations they cancel.
That's what I was, yeah, but I mean, it should have picked up the word CAN. But this right here, here, this is a form that, I mean, we need to know what this says.
Is there any way that he could just, not, I mean, he's not gonna wanna sign it, the builder's not. Is
Send
there
it.
any way that?
Buyer fill it out, check which one. As provided in the finance supplement, loan terms are unobtainable, or loan terms are unacceptable.
Can't be the one
Says
above
price
it.
was-
It's the
Right,
property
yeah, right
appraisal
there,
list.
appraisal. The property appraisal for less than the purchase
There
price.
it is, right
And you
there.
just check it and send it.
Does USDA have a place for selling sign bar?
I don't know, I mean,
Because what I would do is send a deal where he signed that, the USDA form, highlight that, and then send that. I don't have a choice for it. Who's holding it, title company or us?
The title.
they got the earnest money. So that review, earnest money held by title company, leaves the broker with less options in terms of what to do with that earnest money. If this is a very, an obvious case where if we had it,
If
we were the selling agent, but I mean, if the listing broker had it, that broker could decide, you know, it's obvious what's fair here. It's obvious what's the word say. And so he has the discretion, item number 4, in which, on that purchase contract states what happens if the earnest money is being refunded, or whatever it's gonna happen. But item number 4, the broker's gotta give some notice and stuff like that, so he's got the discretion of giving it back to who he thinks he should get, and he could. But a title company's operating under the insurance commission's rules, and they don't have that choice. And so then we're stuck with, they have to agree or go through a judge under an interpreter case to get the earnest money back. But I don't think your buyer's in a position where they are gonna be forced to buy the house. That part is, it's just a matter of when they get the earnest money back, and do they need that to buy something else? And that's the question.
But speaking like, so she would be able to show her buyers in the house if she were still, like, she knows the buyer is gonna sell
That-
it.
here's the deal.
So she knows it's a lease. She should be able to go show.
Yeah.
If you follow the 3-day rule, and you got that in front of the guy at that time, and he acknowledged that he had it, and I'm not gonna release it, you're done.
Let's move on.
That, whether they bought another house or not, is not gonna come up with the argument of whether they get their earnest money back. At all.
So I think, I mean, there's nothing wrong with, I've got a house bought, I'm obligated to close on it, but I'd like to see this one. Go along against us, show them that house, you can show them 10 houses that they'll, you know, maybe they can't buy it or whatever, but there's nothing that says you can't show it.
Just make sure you go under contract for the next one dated after this one, which you are going to.
Yeah, I wouldn't wanna, you know, yeah, I would
And
make
get a
sure
new limit.
that's the case. And then,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, just.
I do, while I'm on this form, this section here is one we don't seem to know about, but it's one of my pet peeves. Seller's notice of cancellation as of the date signed below. You guys have, Susanna's got them right now. It's been under contract for 30 days, and then she finally comments to me, they haven't ordered the appraisal yet. Oh, what the? What? Why?
They were waiting on inspections.
Since I got off the farm, I tried not to cuss him, but I was almost did, and she doesn't like it. But right here, as provided in the finance supplement, the seller was not provided written notice of loan approval within time specified. There is a paragraph in the finance supplements. All of them say, surely I can find one of those quick here. Let me just put FHA in here, just to find something. Oh, come on. on these days where I don't wanna. This should just, there it is, finally, it comes up after I typed it 3 times. Fine, VA. Any of them, for God's sake, any of them will do. Anyway, conventional, good God, I'll use any of them. The good news is I know what they say.
Right.
You just can't find them.
But right here, they got 5 days to make that loan application, but they got 10 days if led back of the time reference dates regarding the following. Review and approval, the buyer shall instruct the lender to issue a written statement of conditional loan approval, within 10 days of what? Review and approval of the buyer's creditworthiness, income, and funds necessary to close. By 10 days, they maybe have some idea that they verified they have the funds to close and so on. Confirmation that the buyer has paid initial processing fees, if any. I had to be, if any. Property appraisal's been ordered. That's the one I told Susanna, why are we 30 days and they haven't ordered that? I know they're not closed until March something, but that doesn't excuse that. And so the seller could use that other form, check, sign it, send it to them. We'll give you 4 days, by God, after this notice, or we're canceling on you. That she has that choice. Now, she's not going to exercise it, but you could. And that's the point. Because to just sit there and be the victim of that person's choices is, if that's the way, the only choice there is, then I guess be one. But if you don't have to be victimized and you put some lever behind this and get that in order because you're threatening to cancel if they don't, which you have a right to do, according to the document they signed, at least let's have a conversation. Guys, I'm going to have to talk to my seller, I guess, about his options. He could cancel this. Are you interested? Is that what you really want? But we need to know if this thing's going to appraise, not in March, but now. Because if it doesn't, we may be putting it back on the market, So anyway, that's why that one. It does say it, property appraisal has been, here's the other one. Oh, we got that one going too. Loan approval is not subject to the sale or closing of the buyer's current property unless stated elsewhere in this contract. We should be notified if they got a house to sell. We had that situation going on where we didn't know until, in fact, we finally put it back on the market 90 days later. And the problem was nothing except they couldn't close on their house because of a zoning issue in Noble City, with the city of Noble, and they couldn't close. And they're waiting on the city to change something so that they can get approval and close. Otherwise, everything else was fine. And they waited. She bought 60 days after the closing date of mercy, letting them try to solve whatever it was they were trying to solve. And, but ultimately, we did not know when they accepted the contract that there was a house that had to close. They already had a contract on. So anyway, just that little section, just let you guys to know that exists. Because sometimes you need a little bit of influence or a little incentive to get somebody doing what they're supposed to be doing. And it's nothing more powerful than reading the words they signed to them and saying, here's what you agreed to do. You're in default here. It's day 11. I've been merciful already one day. Give them a little mercy. I need some once in a while. I like to plan a little of that so I can get some back. But 60 days of it's too much. All right. We couldn't stop on time. Joanna, thank you for coming. But I've had a lot of fun. That's all that matters. So, anyway, if you got questions specific afterward, come on up.
Wait, I have a question before you leave. Glenn, did you know which tile company it was? I knew you did.
I knew he knew.
Oh, that doesn't sound good. Makes your heart feel good.
We apologize.
All of your stuff down here. What do you got? I didn't know it was they didn't want to get flat. That started before the meeting started. Goodwood City, that's all for now. See you later.
Is there anybody there? You can't see anything.